It has been really cold in Pennsylvania this winter so far. I haven't been out in the barn to do much. I thought I'd come out and take a look at this torpedo heater I have. It has been very unreliable. These two are been running great. I haven't had them running in, I don't think I've started these in years, but I just fired them both up and they started right up. So maybe I'll get a little heat from this while I'm working on this other one. I'm going to start out just by pulling the cover off this thing. I'm no expert with this. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I took the cover off. When I took the cover off, this all kind of became loose because it's all kind of fastened down by the cover. I just moved this back out of the way so I have a little room to get at things. So as I understand it, there are three components of this, all of which could use some service. First thing is there's an electric eye down here. That's what I have my finger on. This senses a flame inside this chamber. If there's no flame when it's running, then it turns off the system, right? The fan will stop. That's a safety feature. That's what's happening. It runs for a while, then it just shuts off. So it could be that the electric eye is dirty. Another thing it can be is the nozzle. So this is the nozzle that sprays fuel into the chamber. So my understanding is this works with kind of a suction or a pressure system where when the motor runs, it creates pressure through this hose down into the tank. That pressure causes fuel to move up one of the fuel lines, gets sprayed, any excess fuel is going to go back to the fuel tank again. And then the last component is an igniter. So these two wires that you see down here, hopefully you can see them, go to an igniter. So what I plan to do is remove the igniter, take a look at it, clean it, and then I'm going to remove, there's two screws here that apparently hold this nozzle assembly in place. Pull that off, probably pull the hoses off the nozzle, clean the nozzle. I think we can use some compressed air, maybe some carb cleaner, that kind of thing. And I'm also going to get that electric eye off and just clean the inside of it because there's nothing but a sensor in there. And if there's dirt, spider webs, whatever in there, that could affect that. So that's what I'm going to do. Now, I heard that sometimes the igniter is nothing more than a spark plug. This is clearly not a spark plug. And I don't really know what could go wrong here. It's nothing but this would be nothing but a wire that glows to get red. So, hard for me to imagine that's not working. I mean, it's not breached or anything. All right, well, let's go on to see if we can get that nozzle off of there. All right, here's our nozzle. Get these off. These hoses are kind of different sizes. This one is on the back. So this is one of my tricks for trying to get hoses off that are kind of stuck on the fitting. I have a pick with like a 90-degree angle on it, and I'll try and get that point of that pick down in between the hose and the fitting and just work it around a little bit just to try and break the adhesion of the rubber around it. A little penetrating oil really helps get those hoses loose sometimes. All right. I'll take that to the workbench then. And then the other thing is just pop this electric eye out of here. Here it is. All right, so I just have a little bit of rubbing alcohol and a Q-tip. Just get in here and clean that up. Probably can't see that, but just let that dry a little bit. I don't think there's anything wrong with this igniter. So I just have a little bit of brake clean here. See, that was coming out of there. Well, the nozzle's certainly flowing okay. Okay, everything's had a good chance to dry off. So let's put this thing back together. Start with the eye here. Well, let's just speed this up while we put this back together. So at this point, we're gonna work on putting this injector back on there. It's really just 2 screws. Just getting those screws started, tightening them up. All right, get the hoses on there. Hoses go back on a whole lot easier than they come off. Pretty simple. Next thing to do is get that igniter in place. That was just held in by a single screw. Snug that baby up. All right, seems like everything's in place. Just kind of move everything back in its proper location before we put the cover back on it. Get all the high explosives out of the way before we start it up. Put the cover on loosely, meaning no screws at all. Oh, had it backwards. Can't get any screws in. Oh, there we got a couple. All right, let's get this thing plugged in, turn it on. Let's see what happens. Give it a first test after those 3 maintenance items. So it does fire up. That screeching noise you hear is the fan rubbing against the case because I didn't put the housing on all the way. That goes away. The housing. So I'll let this run for a while. What I did here so far has not made this thing run any more reliably. So I'm going to move on to the next idea, which was making sure there's a lot of fuel in the tank. There is not a lot of fuel in this tank. So I'm going to go ahead and try and fill this up as high as I can. I'll see how much kerosene I've got, and I'll try it again. Well, I spent a whole bunch of time looking for kerosene. Finally tracked some down at what I believe is way too much money. But anyways, I put at least 5 gallons in here with about 3/4 level. Let's see if it makes any difference. Well, several years ago, I made a video about trying to fix another one of my kerosene heaters. And that one actually had red dyed fuel in it. And I made the mistake of saying on the video that I thought that was diesel fuel. Well, it turns out this fuel this kerosene I actually bought yesterday for this kerosene heater was dyed red. So as hundreds of people pointed out to me in that video I did years ago, hey, you can get red dyed kerosene too. So there you go. Well, it's been about 10 minutes since I started it. It's still running, so I'm encouraged by that. I'll be back in a little bit. Well, it's about 25 minutes now. She's still running strong, as you can see. I'm going to turn that baby off. I'm actually done with what I wanted to do out here. Raise the temperature in this building at least 10 degrees already. So I guess my whole problem was I just wasn't keeping that fuel tank full enough. That's kind of amazing. Hopefully I can remember that in the future. So I hope you found that useful. Maybe some of those things I did, you'll be able to do to yours and get yours working better. So I'd love to know how much you're paying for kerosene, Give me a comment below. I just paid $6 a gallon. That seems crazy. I mean, I was paying $4 a gallon a few years ago last time I bought it, but I haven't bought it in a few years, so I've lost track. It's become harder to find kerosene around here, so maybe that's the problem. Anyhow, give us a like. Thanks for stopping by. Good luck. Stay warm.